Yes, we will. We'll have the lead-in music for the YouTube. Welcome. Hello, YouTube. It is Sunday. What day is it? I don't know. It's a Sunday. How about that? It's Sunday the 11th, and we're doing some co-working today. It's not really co-working. It's kind of co-playing, co-living, co-whatever. But as you know, I've decided to put more of these things on YouTube for those who just want to put it on the background or whatever, and maybe want to get ideas or want to search through the stuff. Week 23, Sunday 2023. Non-time and break time, yeah. So just so you know, on this glorious Sunday, we are probably going to be streaming for a good part of this day. I don't know how long this video will be, but we will be taking breaks at the top of the hour every hour or so. If you're on YouTube, you won't see that. We've decided to try to keep myself focused, which is always hard, obviously, during the non-breaks. This isn't really a POMO thing, so I'm not going to call it a POMO. I mean, I could. What if I did that? Do you want me to do POMO? POMO start. Wait, where's my POMO? My POMO. POMO, where are you? It's right there. My POMO's right there. Why is my POMO not showing? I'm very sad. I'm going to fix my POMO right away. I mean, POMO right now is set to go off the top of the hour anyway. So it's not really a Pomodoro timer. It really isn't. It really is not. What the hell? It's supposed to be right there. See? See? Oh, it's Z POMO instead of POMO. Yeah. Okay, that's why. Oh, should we do the thing where we reload it live? Yeah. There it is. Yeah, my Tmux has a configuration. It's Control-A-R, and it'll automatically reload the configuration live. Super cool. Everybody should have that. We're going to go through Tmux Conf during the SkillStack Beginner Boost. Put a plugin for that, skillstack.io. We're going to be talking about SkillStack a lot today because the database I want to design this morning is something I've been working on for off and on for more than 15 years. And I really want to put some legs under it. And that's going to be the main focus today. It's just so you know, genetically engineered Pomodoro. Yeah, so skillstack.io. So I forgot to do the standard disclaimer. Let me do the standard disclaimer really quickly. This is a co-working stream, the co-working, co-living, co-whatever, random ranting. This is going to be me working on a project. It's going to be randomly talking about through it. In general, I have decided not to put these on YouTube unless I'm talking through them. A lot of times when I'm writing a lot of Go code or something like that, I won't even stream it because it's just not interesting unless you're talking through it and explaining what you're doing, stuff like that. So that there is that. I will generally speak through it. There may be moments of silence where I'm trying to concentrate and figure stuff out. But the standard disclaimer is go watch something else if you don't want some messy video of me just doing shit, right? If you want something that's more polished and stuff, go someplace else, right? Or go watch the Boost videos, which are slightly more polished. But really, the interesting thing about today's the thing that I want to do today is something that will really add focus to learning, and it kind of came about because I've been doing these kind of sloppy videos, and I was like, damn, I need to revisit the Open Credential Merit System, which is the Occams OCMS, and the skills database, which is actually one of the things that is behind the name SkillStack that I created in 2013. I won't go into that. Actually, we'll maybe talk about it during the boost a little bit. But the short version of this is in 2008, 2009. I had an interview. I wanted to change jobs, and I realized that my skills had gotten soft. And I could parse JSON and Perl, but I couldn't do it in JavaScript at the time. And I realized I needed to start keeping track of my skills, right? And so what I did was, is that actually right? That says 20 minutes and 32 seconds. That's not the top of the hour, though, is it? Oh, we need to reconfigure it. Yeah, I need to reconfigure my POMO. Don't let me forget. So let me finish the thought. So so I created kind of an app called Skill Stack, which was just a way for me when I heard a word that I needed to remember, I knew I needed to go study more. I would write it down. I would write it down in my skill stack, and then I would rank it between 1 and 10 as to how important it was for me to learn it. Um, and then I would rank it on a 1 to 10 about where I was in my knowledge of the thing. Usually just 1 to 5 though, because 5 to 10 I was using Google scale when I interviewed with Google. Um, 5 to 10 is like I wrote it. I regularly produce regional conference talks on it, that kind of thing. So most people are just 1 to 5. If you're 10, you literally made the thing. So on the Google scale, that's when they interview, they ask you to evaluate your skills on that level. And so anyway, I created this database, and I would just use these one word kind of prompts for this thing, whether it would be a specific task, a skill, a command, an idea, an acronym, or whatever. And I put it in there, and then I'd regularly review that. Now, and I call that the skill stack, method of managing what you need to learn. And managing what you need to learn in the tech world is an essential skill itself. If you don't do that, you will die. I mean, there are many, many careers that demand this kind of management of your skills, but in fact, you can make the argument that they all do. But in particularly in tech, because things are changing all the time. Things are changing all the time, your interests are changing all the time, and your level of mastery is changing. So you need to constantly reassess where you are and what you can do. And you also need to be able to communicate to other people really quickly how fresh your skills are, how good you are. And so someone, usually they're not going to want to see a list of your skills, but they're going to say, hey, I mean, a meeting comes to mind where one of my best favorite managers ever used to have the meeting called the donut meeting. It was like donut and bagels for free on his dime, by the way. And he would just get us in a room and just talk and eat. And some of the best stuff ever came out of that, those absolutely no agenda meetings. And one of the times he was in the meeting, he raised his hand. He said, hey, does anybody know how to manage a SendMail mail gateway? And because they lost their mail administrator at this job. And I happened to have been playing with one, running my own mail server at home, which I don't recommend to anybody. It's actually really fun to learn. And I did it because I was a masochist and I wanted to learn, send mail from home, running my own servers. So I did, and I raised my hand. I said, hey, yeah, I gotta, I play with it at home. Does that count? And he goes, well, yeah, okay, you're it. And I became, the mail administrator for this entire company because I had been playing around with SendMail. So that's how someone would ask you about your level of skill quality, right? I wouldn't say, well, I'm a 10 on SendMail, I say, well, I mess with it at home, and that's maybe by saying I'm like a 3 or 4. But I had knowledge of it, working knowledge of it. Other people might say, hey, I know what the word is. They're a 1 or something. So being able to quickly communicate where you are and feel confident in where you are in a particular skill at whatever level of granularity. And that's the tricky part. The tricky part is, you could say, yes, I know Linux, right? But that's so high, that it doesn't really give you kind of a drill down level of your skills. And you can get really bogged down in this. And every time I've ever tried to do this, this is where I kind of lose traction because I get bogged down in the details. I get over analytical about the whole thing. And IBM has an absolutely dreadfully bad skills database that has this dotted notation for every possible skill that they could possibly imagine. And they want you to fill it out so you can be placed properly regularly. And they want these overworked technologists to like maintain this list of something like 1,000 to 2,000 data points of where they are on a particular skill set based on the title they've been given, rather than accept the fact that nobody's title actually matches what they do on the job ever. So it's a total pain. It's a total fail, and then somebody spent a lot of money on that, which is really sad. So what is actually more successful, in my opinion, is the use of what I call them procedures, tasks, skills, how-tos, recipes. I mean, every time I talk about this, the thing that comes back to mind is the original recipe books that have been successful in the Unix world for a long time. So if you go in the Unix world, you can search for something called the Unix. There's Unix Power Tools. These are old books that are still relevant, but they're really old, right? But I want to show you to you because these books, the very first book on the advent of Darwin, Unix Administrative System, interesting. This is probably worth getting, but let me see if I can find another one. The first one I learned on, God, why can't I think of it right now? It's not the handbook. Oh, Riley, I'll find it. First book I ever had about this, bought it from a bookstore. Unix in a nutshell. There you go. So the nutshell books, God, this is the fourth edition. I have the first edition of this. Yeah, let me see if I can find a picture of it. I still have it somewhere, actually. Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Back when it was blue. There it is. My first ever Linux or Unix book ever. I bought this. I have an original first edition of Unix in a nutshell. And for some reason, they felt like they needed to put referee people. Why would they do that? I have no idea. It doesn't make any idea. Is it the mail server accidentally shut down? No. That was something completely different, actually. Yeah, that was totally different. That was a different mail server and a different account. But they have Java in a nutshell. Damn, I don't remember that one. Anyway, so why is this irrelevant? Because if you open up Unix in a nutshell, which we can probably find as a PDF, they do have random. They went to the animal. This is before they went to the animal thing. That's how old it is. And I have a bookshelf just like this. I got TCP/IP Illustrated. God, I can almost spot the books by their color and banding, and stuff. I obsess about having these kind of books available. These days, you don't need it as much, and Unix in a nutshell is probably worth getting. Linux in a nutshell might be worth as well, but let me tell you why I like these, because let's see if we can find an actual PDF of Unix in a nutshell. They are called recipe books, right? And they take the format of a recipe. And that plays well with people who, take their own notes. I mean, most people's Linux documentation is going to be something more. God, that's $93. It's because it's the first edition. Damn, my collector. My God, mine's a collector's edition at this point. I gotta keep it. Look at how valuable it is, because it's like a first edition. Yeah, updated for SVR4. Oh, that's very fun. That's very fun. Okay, so anyway, let me see if we can find a PDF. You decide whether you think, oh yeah, there's like tons of like cheat sheets. There's like a million ways to learn. I mean, Unix and Linux knowledge is very, very hard to maintain because it's so like granular. You got little sand grains of tasks that you want to do. Not just how to use ls, but how to use ls to list all of the stuff in a directory, right? And so when you go about learning Unix and Linux, you have to make some pretty tough decisions. Do I learn all of bash? Do I learn all of sed or awk, or even, the container commands git? Or, what pieces of it do I learn? And my take on this is that has already been addressed by veterans and the Unix nutshell recipe books. And the point is that there is so much to learn, and it is so granular and hard to organize, that the absolute best way to organize it is by task, right? So let me give you an example. If you are going to document in any way, in your own notes or for somebody else, if you're going to document how to list the permissions of all the files in a current directory, ls-alf if you want, right? That is a very specific thing that you would want to look up in your notes, right? Somebody would want to search it on the internet. They would search for that sentence, and you put it rhetorically. You put it in the name. You word it like a sentence, inspired by Quora or Stack Exchange or whatever the hell, and then you write about, here's the steps, here's the procedure to do that, and then you have in the nutshell books, which I'm trying to find a picture of, which you can't find it. But in the nutshell books, you'd have like a related reading. It'd be like tasks that are associated with this. It would be more reading about the ls command, and it would give you a little bit of context about what you're going to do. So it wouldn't be very much. It's like maybe a page and a half, sometimes even half a page, right? And it's just the task. And so then when you're doing your study, you end up with this your favorite book? Yeah. So migrate your VI skills to piano. Oh gosh. Yeah, I don't know about that. So what I'm trying to say here is that it's not really a cheat sheet that you want. It's not really an all-encompassing man page about the ls command. And by the way, you can do it with find too. This is another. So listing all the directories, listing all the files in a directory, knowing how to do it with ls-al is nice. But guess what? Sometimes you don't have ls, or sometimes ls. This is a true story. So I got hacked. Actually, this is back when I was running my own mail server, about the same time. I got hacked by a guy that I caught. I assume it was a guy, and I found them, and they had already trojaned my ls command, which means that my ls command no longer showed the rat's nest. So what's another way to list all the files and directories inside of a directory? Raise your hand if you know. If you can't use ls anymore, what could you use? So this is an illustration of why the recipe approach to learning is better, particularly in a search-centric world where we're always just looking for the task to do, right? So if you can't do echo. There's actually about 2 or 3 ways to do it, but the most common way would be to say find. Yeah, I use find. You could actually go straight. You could go straight into, these days you could VI the directory, and you can see what's in there. You guys know about this? Yeah, find is what I ended up using, but you can actually VI a directory today, and you can actually modify the contents of a directory by deleting it. Yeah, you want to see? This is really cool. So touch foo, right? So we're going to delete foo. I can VI a directory and go in here and delete foo. Please give the name of the directory foo. A warning, what do you want to do to it? Foo is already a file. Oh, whoops. I guess I want to delete it. I don't know. I don't use this very much, obviously. Yeah, it's not happy. Oh, it's just read only. Never mind. I thought you could delete it. I guess not. So that's another way you could do that. Is it D? I don't know. Is it D? D. Give the directory name. It's capital D. It is, huh? Okay. Did it go into that directory? I think it just went into the directory. Did you see that? Oh, I hit enter and it went in there. What? That's weird. Anyway, so I don't use this. This is not something anybody should actually really. Oh, it's the instruction for quick help is actually right on the screen. I wasn't even reading it. Oh, sigh. Wow, look at that. There's a basic regular expression. Yep, that's how you know it's basic right there. Oh no, it's not. It's an extended. It's an extended regular expression, right? We talked about this the other day. Interesting. Anyway, so yeah, you can do that. Capital D. Yeah. I don't ever use that though. I imagine a lot of people have seen it though, because they do it on accident. And I'm sure that a lot of the young people have done it because That's the thing. But anyway, that's like an example. So that's at least 3 different ways to deal with the directories, the stuff in a directory, right? So my point is simply documenting those 3 different procedures. By the way, that's what a procedure is. And actually those 3 different methods. And this is really, we're going to get into the terminology of these things to describe this. Strictly speaking, those are operations, right? And the really great thing about this is that if you do it right, all of the terminology from software development actually applies to developing human brains, to actually programming humans. All of it. It all applies because it's all the same. So what is a method? A method is a different way to accomplish an operation. And the operation in this case is list all the files with permissions inside of a directory, or list everything in a directory, right? We've just talked about 3 different methods to do that. And those are terms from object-oriented programming. So we can do that. Yeah, I don't do that, but you could do that. So if you the nutshell books are designed to do that, right? So they're really not by chapter. They're kind of grouped, but mostly they're designed to be so that you can look at the index and you can scan through, and back before searchability on the command line or something, and then you would find the thing you want to do, and you just go read the instructions on that and put your book away. And so the nutshell books are reference books, but if you want to have, I took my Unix in a nutshell. Where is it? Where's my Unix in a nutshell? There's grep. We just did grep yesterday. Where's my Unix in a nutshell? Where's my cool blue one with the referee? Anyway, so I took mine and I read it. It always reminds me of my brother who started reading a dictionary. Yeah, when he's a teenager, he's like, I want to learn all the words. And so he just started reading a dictionary. Like literally just like every word in the dictionary. Because he just wanted to learn them all, right? And I don't necessarily recommend that. But so, yeah. But think about that. I mean, that's, if you read the dictionary, just think about how much better, you'd be able to recognize words better. Even if you can't pull them up all the time because you're not using them all the time. Another thing that's really great about the recipe or the operation, the task skill, based approach to learning like this is that you can very easily make flashcards out of the things. And then you can build all kinds of learning tools because now you can just randomize. You can take your entire set of skills and let's say you tag them or categorize them somehow. Then you could say, okay, I want to practice all the stuff related to this, right? So your learning sessions are really easy. You can almost gamify them because now you just say, give me a random task that I need to do, right? And then you recite it to yourself or you actually do the task. Another reason that makes it really nice is if you are assessing somebody else's skills. If you want to see whether they should be on your team or how much they know already, you can randomly pick or specifically pick from a number of those tasks, those operations, and you can put them on the list and you can say, go do these things. Let's see how fast it takes you. Another reason is when you are creating a job description, you can look at the list of tasks that you've been maintaining for yourself or your team and that they need to be able to do, the procedures and all that stuff. And you can say, okay, which specific things here and do I really, really have to have them know out of the gate? And which ones do I want them to know, but it would be nice to have, right? Well, now you have a database of everything in specific terms that you can go to make that job description, right? And then hiring becomes a matter of taking the same job description, taking, the more verbose version of those tasks and giving it to the candidates as a way to assess whether they can actually do it. But in addition to that, if we have that kind of thing at any level of publicity, if we have it so that we can share it, this is where the Open Credential Merit System comes in, and it's inspired heavily by Scout Merit Badges. They can also prepare in advance. And I've actually seen more than one job description, job opening, actually, good companies, not the companies you would think of, not Silicon Valley companies, but good companies that say, hey, you need to be able to do these things. Here they are. And they give them advance notice of the stuff they're supposed to be able to do specifically. And they've been telling them you're going to be tested on one or five of these things, and they give them to them in advance so they can go prepare for it. And so by all of those things, and then if you add on top of that, if you add a level of trust by having a veteran or anyone, frankly, say, yeah, this person actually knows this skill, right? Or they know this skill, or they have this thing. They've actually mastered it. And I've signed off on this date. I tested him for mastery on this thing, and it actually worked, right? And then depending on how trustworthy that person is, whether it's a veteran engineer or it's someone in HR or someone who's paid to do it, or it's an academic in an educational institution, and it doesn't matter, because now that person has said on this date, this person signed off on these specific tasks. And those tasks are in a database, and they can be shared with a larger audience. So whether or not, and the thing that's really great about it is if you take it to the nth degree, the person who has their skills, if they choose to make their profile public, they can publish to the world what they know. And LinkedIn has this stupid ass, oh God, LinkedIn is so bad. It's just so bad. It misses on so many levels. It has so many wonderful opportunities to do this right, and it fails miserably. The biggest one that it fails at is random people saying that somebody is good at a specific skill without them even asking to be validated or even being an authority. I don't know how many people have said I'm really good at Windows. I'm like, they have no idea. They don't know who I am. That I didn't ask for their evaluation, right? That's totally broken. What should happen is it should be the person who's presenting themselves to the world should be able to choose the people that they trust to do the evaluation of their skills specifically, and for a specific skills group, not for just because you like me and you're going to get cred in the social thing and you want to do something nice, you're going to go upvote me on Linux. Well, you have no idea what Linux is. You're not an authority. You don't even use Linux. Why do I even give a shit about your rating of me on Linux? And why would anybody else care about your rating of me on Linux, right? Why do all those people why do they care about all the people who upvote on Stack Exchange? It could be some idiot who's never even done it before, but they have the right to upvote. So the whole problem with the whole upvoting evaluation system is that the person who's most affected by the results, which is, whether the information is relevant to their profile or to the task at hand, they don't have control over who they get to pick to represent their, whether they should be trusted or not in their skill set, their skill stack. So you can't do any of this unless you have, at least the beginnings of a way to collect these tasks and these skills together. You can't do any of this unless you have that, right? That's the first step. And that's what I want to do this morning. But all of the rest of the final form of all of this is something that is more of a standard, not so much an application, about how to represent a person's skills, and at least an agreed upon way to do this. Something of a data model that we can share, and then this just kind of like loose formality as to how do we validate this, right? This stuff is all going to come up again, by the way, in the beginner boost when we talk about making your own resume and profile on GitHub. Because if you do this right, you can actually build your CV and or your resume out of your personal skills database, right? Because you've been maintaining this thing the whole time, right? And anytime, and then occasionally so to compare it with the software world, my Pomo's dying. Pomo stop for now. So your mom says you're good at computers. Why and how it works section. Yeah. So we have the task or the operation, if you want to use the computer term. We have the method, a specific method of accomplishing the task or the operation. Actually, the operation is generically speaking how you would do it, and then my word, I've been using the word task as an instance of the execution of the operation, and I know that's really pedantic, but that would mean so, and that's what goes on your resume, right? So let's say you have a task, and the task is create a root CA for an internal enterprise that is used by Kubernetes for OIDC Connect authentication, which is something that I'm doing, right? That is the operation, right? And the operation is quantified. You can break down the operation, right? So the really great thing about it is if you look at that sentence, you could actually make a function signature for that, right? So the name of what might be, let's actually do this. The name of it might be, so what we say, create a root CA for use by Kubernetes for on-prem internal Kubernetes OIDC Connect authentication. Okay, so that's for IDC authentication. All right, that's the operation, right? The procedure, which is interesting because that's exactly the same word in programming. There could be one or more methods that follow a different procedure. Each method has a different procedure, right? And that would be the procedure to fulfill this. Right? This is the operation. An operation is I'm going to do it once, right? And what I call a task is a specific execution of the operation. So a specific implementation of the operation would be in your resume. So I would say something like, in my resume, it would say created, right? Created, designed, and implemented root CA for on-prem internal Kubernetes OIDC authentication at such and such a company on such and such a date with this many machines and this many users, right? That was a moment, an event, if you will, where I executed the operation, and I can prove that I know how to do that because I've done it, right? And the thing is so interesting about this is the farther you get into this, the closer it starts to resemble an actual process table on a Linux machine or a Unix machine, right? Because that's really all jobs are. And they're literally called jobs. So, in fact, I kind of like the word job better. What is a job? A job is a running operation, and it's a running process. What's a process? A process is a running program. What's a program? A program is a list of steps that the computer should do, a procedure that accomplish a specific operation in a specific way using a specific method. So all of the language of software development applies directly to skills, training, learning, and mastery. And we can inform those types of systems. And what's really crazy too is it's like in such a system, we have certain jobs that have different access permissions and have elevated rights and all that stuff. We have certain jobs and tasks that can only be run by certain people, right? That there's so many similarities to the social constructs that exist around execution of procedures. And if you get in the military, by the way, I'm not, but if you get in the military, I understand that it would be fun for military people to look up. But military, they're all about procedure, man. They're all about procedure. And the reason is they are programming, and they even use the word programming. They are, the Punisher is the closest reference I have to the military recently. But they are programming them to respond in very specific ways instantaneously so that they don't have to think about what they're doing, the method of them doing whatever it is they're doing. And so they rehearse it over and over again. Hey, Mr. Streamley. And they program themselves. They literally program themselves either as a unit or as an individual, actor to do those things, to execute on those procedures. Here is the procedure for launching a mortar. Here is the procedure for doing this. And if they err in the procedure, they can, people die. So in the military in particular, they are very formal about their procedures. This is the procedure for this. EMTs, very formal in their procedures. How many times have I had to go back through CPR training, because it always changes. The procedure for CPR changing, the method of CPR, the operation would be restore cardiovascular function to someone who stopped breathing. That's the operation, right? But there's like multiple methods of doing that. And those methods are implemented. Each method is implemented with a different procedure. And that's programming. That's 100% programming. And so, and when Neo says, more please, because he downloaded, I know Kung Fu, he gets Kung Fu downloaded into his brain. It's our brains are just computers at the end of the day, and our bodies are just devices. They're just collections of devices with sensors. We are walking computers in many very specific. Here comes my wife. You're getting.
Bye.
Where are you going?
You can put the towels in that IKEA bag on top of the dryer when you want to.
Okay, I'll do that.
The dishwasher has clean dishes.
You're taking off to, who knows where, to the studio.
All right.
My wife's going to the studio. Everything we do at work is done according to an operating procedure. Absolutely. So, and depending on how important your work is, whether people will die or not, whether moon landings will work or not, there are very strict procedures that have to be followed. So the only reason I'm giving you all this backstory is because this has already been invented, right? This entire system of learning has already been invented, and it's called software engineering. And so if we apply software engineering to humans so that we can get the same result, then all we have to figure out is, how do we program humans, right? Do laundry action, put towers and trials and dryer. Yeah. How do we program humans? The way you program a human is through repetition. And we see that in the military. We see that anywhere, right? But you can't have repetition unless you know what you're doing. And you certainly want to know how to do it right? So how do we create a system where people can document multiple methods for accomplishing a thing? I mean, how many methods are there to kill somebody if you're in the military, right? Or to incapacitate them, we'll say, right? There are many, many methods to do that. And so if you were to look up in the military database, okay, how do I incapacitate someone making the least amount of noise? And there's no further qualifiers, by the way. Those qualifiers would all be argument signatures if you're thinking of it in terms of functions. In that sense, rather than calling it a function or an operation, you could even call it like a subroutine. Like, what's your subroutine? Upload data into our brains soon enough. Yes, well, he wants to, but no, Elon's an idiot. So the question then becomes, how do we program humans? Well, you can't program a human unless you write the code, right? So how do you write the code to program a human? You have to write the procedure. And how do you write the procedure? Right? You use rhetorical communication, use, in this case, English, to write the code for the procedure of a specific method to do an operation or accomplish a task, whatever it is, an action, whatever you want to call it. And if we think of it that way, then when we create a system to capture that stuff, we need to create a system that can be just as easily programmed as some Python code someplace. So that's the basis of what I want to do. It's the basis of what I've always wanted to do. Because once you have established the way of writing this, we're writing a programming language for humans is what we're writing. That's what we're writing. And we have to establish what the syntax for that is. What does that look like? How can I add the structure necessary without making it too burdensome to get to? people when they're writing code in VS Code or whatever, or even Vim, they want tab completion so that it'll tell them their favorite signatures to do a specific thing, right? When they're using ChatGPT or they're using, OpenAI or whatever, any of those, they want to see, how do I make a web page, right? And that's just writing the code. It's writing the code for them based on, the most frequent neural pathway for that particular thing, or the most recent hit. So how do we capture that in a way that allows us to write an infinite number of specific operations or tasks, skills, whatever you want to call them? And I personally think a skill is a group of operations that go together, right? And obviously there's like all kinds of granularity here. So like set up Linux, right? That's a pretty big ass operation. And there's a lot of qualifiers in there. And just like software, we would need to break that down into individual procedures, and those procedures would need to use logic. Say, look, okay, on what? And so I think that's been enough of a little preamble as to what do I want to accomplish here. And so I think that is where we should go. Yeah. Receiving data into our brain through astral projection, maybe. Tab completion feels good, yes. So how do we do tab completion for our daily routines? Now, I will tell you already that one of the techniques that I have been using is my Zettlecast, right? And this is something that was invented, by what's-his-face, Nicholas Luhmann a while ago, who, I'm finding more about him. He's kind of a dick, actually, but whatever. I keep finding more out about him as a human being, and I'm not too impressed. But he did come up with this idea of like individual ideas, bits of knowledge being documented in a sort of a network of tree of things. And that's more about managing knowledge. It just so happens that a lot of times one Zettel will end up being, my prompts for myself, my programming for myself that I've then put in. But the takeaway from this is that the Zettlecast approach does allow you. It's kind of like dynamic linked libraries in an operating system. I can pull up really quickly the cached, if you will, procedure to do that thing, even if it's not in RAM right now. How's that? Because it's not in my RAM. I got to go look it up, right? And actually, one of my greatest failures in life is that I don't remember things when I know I can look them up. Because I'm like, that's lazy. I don't want to do that. I don't want to overwhelm my cache. I'm going to swap that data out, and I can pull it up anytime I want to. And I mean, it's really remarkable how many direct comparisons there are to software in the human world, we'll say. So we can. The reason I keep doing this is because we've already solved all of these problems. As all we have to really do is turn our attention to humans as opposed to computers, and apply all of the same rules. And so the first important question is, how do we write the code, the human code? How do we write the code for humans, right? What is the programming language for humans? That's what we're trying to come up with. Right now, we're trying to come up with the syntax, the domain-specific language, if you will, the data model for coding humans. How do we program humans to do something? And that's exactly what it is. It's about the word orange. So I started to drink orange juice, started to feel better. Interesting. Yeah. Well, there you go. So we need to figure that out. That's our first task at hand. And I want to. I'm going to take a quick little break. But that is the task right now. I'm going to leave that on the screen as we take our break. So how do we program humans, right? And we could say, what is the syntax of the programming language for humans? I know that sounds silly. It sounds like an iRobot, strange science fiction, but I really mean it. We need to figure that out, right? And we want it to be interchangeable. We want it so that we can write different procedures. We want it so that our procedures can override the other procedures. I mean, and we're going to get into this in a bit. We're gonna make decisions about, should I use a gerund versus just, a declarative, a declarative verb. Those are going to be decisions we make into the language we program for humans. And then, what is the syntax of it? Is it YAML? Is it just Markdown? Is it just rhetorical guide? And a lot of this stuff has already been covered in many different Agile, UML, and that kind of thing. So we're going to be back in a bit. Let's take a quick little break, and after the break, we'll come back to learning how to program humans. All right, we are back. It's been fun listening to some music, taking a pretty big break. A bigger break than I would have liked. We had to fix the Pomo timer, which is going to go off at the top of the hour in 13 minutes, but we are going to keep going on right through those ones as we took a pretty big break to fix the Pomo timer. By the way, if you want a little Pomo timer up in the corner of your tmux, take a look at my tmux.conf and artifactsrob/dot files. You can go ahead and use the ws.skillstack image if you want to. That's covered in the boost in the overview. Or you can download the release of the Pomo command line binary if you want to play around with that. It's got pretty good help in it. There's some stuff missing from the help, but whatever. It was just a fun little diversion. It's not really, as I said, it's not really a Pomo timer, because it's, you can set it to 20 minutes, but I have it set to hour, which will reset at the top of every hour. So it just works out better for me. How do you get those icons in the README? They're in there by default. The icons are in there by default. They're hard coded into the program. Yep. So yeah, if you do Pomo var data or var edit. Oh wait. I gotta get a different one here. There we go. So yeah, they're hard coded into it when it first creates it. Yeah. Are you looking for something else like this thing? I don't know. Let me know what you're looking for. But that's I don't know. It's kind of a fun thing. All right, so we are back at it. We're talking about how to program humans, which reminds me, I'm going to update the title. I'm going to update the title here really quickly. How do we program humans? That is the title for the next hour or so. How do we program humans? And I mean, it is software and game development. I guess it still counts, right? It's because it's still coding. And then it says go references until you guys what I refer to. I don't know what you're talking about. Tell me, describe it as a tree or something. I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. Gone from chilling radio station programming in like 20 seconds. Yeah, sorry about that. If you want to chill with radio, this is not the place to be. There's a lot of other places to go for that. Yeah, people have opinions. Everybody wants me to do something different. You can't satisfy everybody. So my Sunday, I'm talking about how to change the world through programming humans and creating a way to capture that coding language, whatever it is, programming language for humans. And I mean, let's come up with the terminology real quick. So an operation, we could call it an operation or an action. I think an action is a specific step. So we're going to say an operation is something to be done. And we could say a task is an instance execution or instance of an operation. A method is this specific procedure to accomplish, to fulfill an operation. The same thing from software, right? a procedure uh, is a logical steps with conditional branching. Logical steps to accomplish that make up a method. So this each step is also an operation. Operations organized into logical steps with conditional branching make up a method. We have a task, which is an execution instance of an operation. Yeah. Then we have operation, a method, a procedure, a task. We're going to have a vocabulary kind of summary here. Yeah. I don't even want to call this. What I call it? I'll flesh this out later. Let's move foo to. I mean, we could move it to docs. I think we'll probably call it OCMS. Yeah. Directory, docs, OCMS. Move foo to docs, OCMS. Readme IMD. Docs. This will be public. People can read it. I've already written about the OCMS before, so it's going to be a place to collaborate on this. Open credential merit system. OCMS. Occams, pronounced Occams. So, example of an operation. Yeah. We're going to get to the database creation, I promise. And that's what I want to get to, because what I want to do is I want to start, when I'm writing these things for Boost, I want to write them in this format so I can reuse them. That's why I'm doing this. If I write them in this format from the beginning, then I don't have to rewrite them later. So I need to come up with that format so when I'm doing the Boost tasks, I can write the tasks. I'm already starting to write them that way as like how to whatever, right? But so yeah. Example. Yeah. Create. Okay, so that's a thing. How to program humans. How do we program humans? Yeah. Okay. And I have other stuff about this in my Zep, but I'm not going to do it right now. Let's see. Method, operation. An operation is something to be done. We're going to use the standard bold, which is for terminology according to HTML. They have definitions, which I could do, but the specific procedure to fulfill an operation. More than one unique method can fulfill the same operation. I was going to use kill a person. Procedure. A procedure consists of operations organized in a lot of steps with conditional branching that make up a method. What is the difference between a procedure and a method? A method is always a procedure, but a procedure is not necessarily a method. There we go. Yeah, personified ML, absolutely. Repetition. Neural nets, that's where it came from. It's how our brain works, right? A task is the execution or instance of the execution is the point in time execution of an operation. We could actually call that a job. I'm going to call that job instead of task. Yeah. Sometimes an operation can be called a task. A task is kind of hard to define. A task can mean, in general, the way to do a thing, but usually a task is a specific instance in time of when something has to be done. So, like, it's an operation that's been given a specific time to be executed, but it's not necessarily the execution of it. Does that make sense? So, like a cron job or something. I'm going to put that in here. A job is actually the actual point in time execution of an operation in progress. All right, so would be the job, yeah. So task. A task, I mean, a cron job is kind of misnamed because each time it executes, that's an instance of the job, right? A task is a scheduled point in time execution of an operation a task is a scheduled point in time execution of an operation in the past or present. Okay, so a task that is currently being executed is a job. A job is the real-time execution of a task in progress. So procedure, I mean, I like the term action too, but actions are it's just another way to say an operation. I don't like the word operation, but that is the word that's used. And a lot of this stuff comes from the military. So, we got an op. We had an. People use the term in the military. They use the term op to refer to a thing that actually happened or is going to happen, right? Wait, what? Auto reset's not on. We got to turn auto reset on. Yeah, Pomo, var data, var edit. Auto reset equals hour. There we go. That didn't get documented. I got to document that. I'm going to. Any thoughts? Yeah. Instead of chasing a job. Yeah, I don't know. Making your own software as a service product, that's quite a task. I mean, my problem with making money about software as a service kind of stuff is that I don't ever feel comfortable charging money for anything I make, which is really stupid. So I tend to get traditional operations jobs. The question is, have I ever thought about doing software as a service or some product in order instead of working for somebody? And I mean, I made my own company for 8 years, and it was successful. But we took some debt. We took the COVID thing on, and we were very successfully proceeding on our ability to pay down the debt and everything. But COVID killed it, so I had to go back to corporate America so I can pay down that debt, which we're getting close to having paid off now. So the point I'm trying to make is I would never start my own company again ever. I would never do it. I'm perfectly happy suckling on corporate teat and doing the stuff I want to do on the side. And maybe that's because I'm old and tired. And if it's serious, right? Yeah, I make really good money, and now that my wife's working, we're making really crazy money. Even though we're in an apartment, we'll have all our debt paid down in a year easily. And then move into a house or something. So, yeah. Yeah, but I honestly, I cannot, in good faith, I cannot recommend people start their own, work for themselves or start their own jobs. I can't. Not in America anyway. There are so many penalties unless you absolutely know you've got unlimited venture capital coming for the next Series A and Series B. I mean, people get millions of dollars and they have great ideas and their companies still fail in America because the system is just set up for failure. And I hate to put it that way, but that's just how it is. And it's just not a battle that I can recommend in good faith to anybody. It's better for you to go find. I mean, if you listen to the stories of the people who hit it big, you hear those stories, but you don't hear the hundreds of stories of other people who tried to make it big in the software world who just had to go back to work doing something else. I'm not saying don't do it. If you're single, you have no plans for a family, and you're just really hungry, and you're really smart, and you got a great idea, and you've got money somehow to pay for your stuff, you got to have money to make money, right? So, then yeah, go for it. But if you think that you're going to be Tom who made GitHub and you're going to couch surf until you hit the big one and somebody blesses you with venture capital and then you cash out after 2 years of working there and now you're a philanthropist, you can go for that. First of all, I couldn't be able to live with myself like that. If I made Twitter and then I rolled it over for multiple millions and billions of dollars, and then I grew my beard out and became a guru and a Bitcoin prophet, I could not live with myself. I mean, Twitter is one of the stupidest fucking ideas ever invented. It had already been done by everybody else, and all it is somebody got some venture capitalist to dump money on them, and now they think they're God's prophet to the earth, Same with you. I want to talk about this because it gets me angry. Stupid people will do things to make billions of dollars all the times because they think they deserve it or they think they're smarter than everybody else, but they're really just idiots and they don't know better. And those of us who know better tend to not make money because we have ethics and we're not going to take advantage of the system like some people are okay doing. I'm not. The extent of my self prostitution is working for a nice, safe, conservative company that's doing something good for the world. It's doing something relatively good for the world, and I'm happy to make an honest living, pulling down way more money than I should ever be paid compared to a teacher. But that's the extent of my ability to violate my own ethics. Other people have a much higher tolerance for it, all the way to the extreme, which is people who actively seek to take advantage of others to make money in Silicon Valley. It happens all the time. I don't want to be. You could not pay me to work for a company in Silicon Valley. You could not pay me enough to work there for even a month. It is just absolute. It's like the cesspool of humanity over there. The shit that goes down in Silicon Valley is absolutely unheard of. I mean, if even 1% of the rumors I've heard about the stuff that happens in the dark with all these people who have money in Silicon Valley, even if 1% of that is true, California is going to get bombed by God. And I don't believe in God in that sense, but dude, there's something very unique about a total sociopathic nerd who has a lot of technology skill and giving them $1 billion and they can create a particularly vile form of evil that I don't want to get into right now. And I don't. Their tolerance for absolute evil is very, very high. Because, and I can't say anything because they'll get all, it's all rumors, but if even 1% of it is true, the stuff that goes on. Company I work for, a consulting company, I can't answer that question. I'm not answering any questions about where I work because I think it's inappropriate. People talk about where they work all the time. I think it's inappropriate. What's good money for me in this world? I don't know. $250,000. So anyway, let's keep going. To me, that's good money. So let's consider the point of time. Opportunity to pass the test for get a job. Person working the logical steps, conditional branching that would make up per method. Okay. I think we have it here. It's back to the topic at hand. I should have taken a break during all that time. I should not have been talking about that on YouTube, but oh well. How do we program humans? What is the syntax programming language for humans? We have our terminology here. So what is the thing that we're going to document next? The next thing is we're going to write documents. And what are we documenting in our recipes, in our O'Reilly recipe books? We are documenting operations. Okay. That's what we're documenting. And specifically, we're documenting the methods. So when we write code, operations are just, what is the name, the identifier for the operation, and what are the different parameters that can go into an operation. It's a function signature, essentially. And we need to think of it that way because, you can take it from, I keep coming back to the military thing. So let's say, I don't know, break in a door, right? That's actually even something larger than that. It's like, acquire access, right? And there would be a bunch of conditionals there. Is there a door there? If so, do this. Is there a window? If so, do this, the procedure. But let's say door, let's say, enter a door. And there's a lot of ways to enter a door, right? It would be, break it in but the arguments to it would be, enter door, and it would be there'd be lots of parameters, right? Or actually there'd be a variation I call enter like locked door. Okay. And then it would say, okay, so, and then the argument passed into it would be the door. And then maybe the method that we want to use, like how much impact can we have? How noisy can it be? Stuff like that. Those would be parameters. And the crazy thing is that's the exact word in English, not necessarily coding. What are the parameters of this operation? I want to gain access to this thing, and I have a door. I gain access to a locked door, and then what are the how do I go about doing that, right? So multiple methods. One would be hack it, one would be break it in, one would be, all of that. So, if you're an animal, what would you be? Yeah. I can't ask for serious money. Most people who are actually good people, who are smart and intelligent and ethical, have a really hard time asking for the money that they're worth. That is a flaw, by the way. The people that are unethical assholes think they deserve more money than they need, and they end up making shit ton of money. And they don't deserve it, but they end up getting paid it anyway because they demand it. And for some reason, they finagle others into thinking that they deserve it or that they're worth it. And you see those people, and then that makes it really hard for the good people to actually ask for what they're actually worth, because they keep thinking the imposter syndrome keeps coming in because all of these idiots that are making crazy money are like reinforcing their own imposter syndrome. It's like, I don't want to be an idiot like that, or I deserve to be an idiot like that. And maybe they convert over, maybe they catch a whiff of the disease, and then they become that. I kind of did. Working for corporate America, making the money I make makes me absolutely sick to my stomach. It does, because I don't think I deserve it. I think a teacher, or for God's sake, a soldier who puts their life on the line, or a fucking professor should be making. I make so many levels higher than those professions, and it makes me sick. I'm not going to tell you how much money I'm making. Don't ask. I'm just making a lot more than those people. So that's all. And I deserve it. Look, I deserve it based on the market rate for my skills. I didn't make the market rate for my skills. That's not on me. But it still makes me feel sick, and it's not my fault. It's society's fault. Society has decided that dweebs, Go and Linux and how to hack and things like this deserve like 3 to 10 times more than our teachers. And our military. I didn't make those rules. But it absolutely makes me sick. But at some point you have to accept that is the going rate. Or artists, my wife is, God, she's so talented. Or musicians, good musicians, they can't make money anymore because society is just so fucked up. And especially capitalist societies, they are really fucked up. I mean, there is nothing better than capitalism right now. There's variations of socialized capitalism that are better. Like we lived under FDR. That's capitalism, but it was also a little bit of socialism. I hope we get it. I'm probably degrading here. I'm supposed to be staying on the task. It just bothers me. It just bothers me that or God, how about professional sports people? How much obscene money? You could take one professional basketball player's income and pay for almost an entire school district of teachers. Think about that for a second. Most of the football coaches and the high schools make more money than everyone but the principal. I didn't make the rules. And being able to accept that those are the rules. Let me tell you what. If the reason I'm doing the boost is because it's one way for me to cling to some sanity so that I can help people get the tech jobs so they can take advantage of this bullshit, and they can take all the money from these filthy rich venture capitalists and corporations and stuff like that, and they can hopefully turn around, help other people make that filthy money and distribute the money to places where it needs to be. Yeah, I think that's the most pure form of philanthropy, because you're actually doing something. You're not just sitting back, counting your dollars from fucking over the entire world with your Mozilla Netscape browser. So, or I look, that's my idea of how to survive today. The way to survive today and be a good person is to get into something that is not evil. Like, for example, I would never work for Facebook under any circumstances whatsoever. But to work for something that's, not, I would actually work for Google these days. They would never have me, but I would work for them. I'm just too opinionated. They would just have to look at one of my videos and they'd be like, fuck no, we're not hiring that guy. But, and I know what I am. Maybe you'd be surprised though. I think some organizations don't care as long as you can produce value for them. They don't care who you are or what you are or how evil you are. They just want you to make them money. That's changing. It's actually changed. So anyway, yeah, make a lot of money, work, keep your nose clean, and yeah. By the way, when I say what I make, it's not just me, right? It's my wife and I combined. So we we have very very few needs. So really, that's really the secret to staying wealthy is to keep your expenses down. Don't become house poor. Don't become, don't overspend in debt and stuff like that. Just, watch your expenses and stuff. And it's easy to say. And when I started business, I kind of blew that out the window. Mozilla catching strays. Yeah. The world has no sense. Current ruling government party literally paid $2 billion PLN on public television while the public health service can't afford wages for doctors and nurses. Yeah. Yeah, I don't yeah. I know. It gets me frustrated. I can't talk about it. The best thing you can do is don't get mad, get busy, right? And this is becoming more of that podcast. Don't get mad, get busy. Hopefully we're going to start doing that podcast again. I only did one episode of it. And I kind of I'm going to leave this. I'm actually kind of past my time on this. As you can tell, I'm kind of degrading. This happens every time I do any kind of stream. I start out really raring to go, and then I kind of get tired because we approach the end of it. And because I'm just, and then I almost always get pulled into random conversation somehow. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I told you it was ranty and stuff. We have our terminology. Now it's time for us to start figuring out we have an example, create a root CA for use on number OIDC authentication. So that is an actual operation. And then this method would be, what would it look like? What would this look like? How would we make an example of that? How would we make it? We would make it like step 1, step 2, whatever, right? I think we probably would. And I think that we're probably going to need to do this as, when you do a formal procedure, you know what? Let's go look, because there's stuff out there. How do I document a formal procedure? When they have procedures, they usually have step 1.2.5, make sure things are done without mistakes. How about we need JavaScript to see this page? Really? I don't need that bad enough. I can't believe people make JavaScript a mandatory thing on pages that are just documentation. How stupid can you be? Fucking idiots. Procedures are a set of instructions that professionals can use to explain processes in the workplace. That's something we know. Really? You didn't even set your title properly to your document? Are you kidding me? Oh my God, these people are idiots. There's just so much shitty HTML out there too. It's just absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. It is. Okay, what is a procedure? Procedure details a set of directions individuals can use to complete a task. All right, so they're calling it a task. They're calling it a task. A task is a scheduled point in time. See, I call a task a scheduled operation. So I guess we're going to be good. Going to be about. Hey, Brill, how you doing? So we'll call that an operation. Yeah, I'm mining terminology from there. They would call it domain modeling. Learning how to write procedures and see examples and guide you to writing through your writing. Procedure includes various steps and instructions on how to complete each step. Professionals can create procedures in a variety of industries to help explain processes in simple terms. What is the importance? Why is it important to write procedures? Writing effective procedures is an important part of creating effective, efficient systems in your organization. Writing procedures can help you achieve the following benefits. Actually, systems analysts actually analyze the systems of a company, not necessarily the computer systems. So yeah, writing procedures can help achieve the following: faster training, which is what I'm talking about. Increased accuracy. Team members follow a procedure. Improved efficiency. Business can grow their procedures. And this is a good document. This is a good write-up. Tips for preparing to write a procedure. Before you write a procedure, consider following these tips so you prepare. Choose a format. That's what we're doing right now. Or what is the language of procedures? You can choose from a variety of formats when drafting a procedure. You may use software program, word processing document, or pen and paper. Consider your organization's preferences when selecting format. Also, consider who will review the procedures and how often. All of this is stuff we've talked about in the first hour today. It may be easier to revise and share your typed document and recode other people, that kind of thing. Select a layout. Consider how you will display your information. This is what we're trying to do right now. This can vary depending on your organizational style, particular procedure. For example, longer procedures may be in instructional manual format. That's what we're looking for. While short procedures may be in a checklist. Consider using bullet numbers, check mark boxes, and that's what we're doing. We're writing the syntax. What is the programming language of procedures for humans? How do we program human? Review your current procedures. That's what a system analyst does, by the way. They go in and they talk to people about their current procedures. What is it they do? They get to write all that down, and then the domain language, they create that out of it, which is using the terminology that they use to describe what it is they do. All of that is related to programming. And then where possible, they convert that into a program where there's people involved. They program those people. How to write procedures. Select procedure if you're writing multiple procedures. This is really obvious stuff, but it's a good write-up. You can begin writing procedure by starting with a smaller task. For example, if you're writing a set of procedures, that's usually the best way to do it, is to start with the small task. How do I list all the files in this directory? Connect with team members. Again, this is systems analysts. When beginning your procedure, consider connecting individuals to complete the process or task. Email, call, or set up a meeting. That is the job. That's what I did when I was at SkillStack. I'm sorry, when I was at Nike, when I SwooshNet, and I went to all the different teams in Nike and asked them about their procedures and their systems so that I could help them by putting some of those on the web. Consider your audience. Consider who will read your completed procedure before you draft it. Target audience can pick the content. Absolutely. This is like, write an introduction. Okay? Create a resource and materials list. This is what are you going to need? What are the objects you're going to have to obtain? How much RAM? Tell us you may produce digital information. Draft steps and instructions. Okay, under the resource, you can begin writing the steps. Okay, so they're suggesting something called preconditions too. Indeed. I don't know. I'll tell you in a bit. Yeah, they're suggesting, so format. We say terms. Let's do format. Format. And then we'll say, we'll have like an introduction. I think we need to have a name. Format for an operation. So could have a unique identifier. Rhetorical. One line short description in natural language. Preconditions and dependencies. And then it would have the steps, right? Or the method. List of methods, right? Because there's more than one method. So that's a good start. Consider beginning with a general list of steps. You can move the steps all around, details, instructions. Add visual elements, visual graph charts, or diagrams. Yeah, you really don't need that. Review advise the writing. Conduct a procedure. I mean, we could document the UML steps to do this. We actually don't need to do that if we use unique identifiers properly. If we document this well in a database and we have these things, then we should be able to pull up a visual representation of and drill down into any operation that's in the database. And operations that use other methods, they could then link to each other, and you could create an entire database of operational procedures for your team or for your fucking company if you wanted to. And that is really the way to write documentation. It's not, I mean, everybody struggles with how to write documentation at work. And because like, what do we write, right? Well, how do I do that? But almost every single time, the thing that you're trying to write is a procedure that somebody else needs to follow. And that procedure includes locations of things that they may not know about, where they are or how they are or where they are. And that is a big deal. Ask for feedback, of course. Procedure examples. Here are some examples. Example 1, procedure for answering a call for a business. Introduction. Answering calls in a friendly, helpful way is an important part of our team's success. To stay consistent in our company's voice, we've decided to set up steps. Yeah. Introduction with justification and motivation. Precondition dependencies. Beginning with a declarative verb, right? That's the methods. Declarative verb and parameters. Okay, and you'll need the following items nearby: a headset and an extension chart. Procedure for answering phone calls. Now, see, this is where this particular document falls on its face. There are multiple methods to implement a procedure. Actually, no. A procedure is... Do we want to make procedure the same as a method? I think we could do that. You know what? A procedure is a method. Yeah. Is a specific procedure to fulfill an operation. more than one unique method can fulfill the same operation. Okay, a procedure consists of operations organized into logical steps with conditional branching that make up a method. A method is always a procedure, but a procedure is not necessarily a method. I kind of feel like method and procedure are the same word. I think the procedure is the steps itself. Okay. The procedure is the specific, is a set of specific logical steps that make up the action performed in a method. A method contains a procedure. Okay, there we go. A method is a specific. A method contains a procedure to fulfill an operation and provides a name and other metadata for identifying and other identifying metadata. Yeah. A procedure does not have a name, but as a part of a method, since a procedure is just the steps without a name, usually a method is more commonly used. All right, that makes me happy. I know this seems like I'm being pedantic, but this is the time to be pedantic. I care about language and shit. So, okay, so that makes sense. So what they're creating here, they're calling this a procedure, but this is really a method, in my opinion. It's actually really an operation. This is a method, which is an implementation of an operation, right? And it doesn't even tell you, it doesn't have a title, right? So we have no way to refer to it. But the reason I'm saying this is because right here it says procedure for answering customer calls. So answering customer calls is a really, really horrible identifier of an operation, right? Well, the way they should have said it is they should have said this is an operation, answer customer calls. Answer calls, right? Answer customer calls is the name of the operation. And this procedure is a method, actually, and the procedure steps right here are the steps that are a part of the overall method, but the method includes the introduction, the resources that are required, and some way to uniquely identify the method that can be associated with a specific operation. So yeah, let's keep going. I mean, this is all going to be very helpful later when we start to code things. Program humans, yes. Yeah, it's almost like we need humans for some reason still. Wow, who would have guessed? Answer the. I mean, if you think ChatGPT is going to run the world, answer the phone before the third ring. Greet customer by saying, "Hello, you've reached blah blah blah. This is blah blah blah." Use positive language. This is interesting. That is not a procedure. You know what that is? That's a state. That's a state flag modification. This, pursuant to this kind of idea of doing everything as software. So it would be procedure for answering customer calls. Answer the phone before the third ring. So answer phone before the third ring. This is the parameters. Greet customer, and then by saying this, right? Use positive language. That actually should have been put up above, but that would be set language tone equals positive. So this is like changing a variable on the person who's fulfilling the procedure. It's like setting their positive language variable to true. That's what it's doing. That's kind of fun. Yeah. So yeah, it's like, hey, set language equals positive. Activate smile. Oh, mute background noise. Answer the customer's questions. Okay. See, answer the customer's. Any one of these procedure steps could be broken down into another procedure. So ask them if they have any questions, and then do this. Now ask them if they have any more. Repeat until whatever. Right? There's where algorithmic kind of writing comes in. Ask the customer to please hold while you transfer them. Maybe you don't want to transfer them. Dial the extension number. See, this is where documenting procedures becomes important, because there may be your idea of how to answer customers' questions may be totally different than somebody else's. So, I mean, without getting into the very deep rabbit hole of how much you should just know and shouldn't have to be told versus what you should be told. How strict is a procedure, right? Do we even need a procedure? I tell you what, if you're doing a medical procedure or you're doing a military op or you're doing things like that where people are going to die, then the strictness and directness of the procedure is super important. If you have, if you're doing Wolf of Wall Street and you're dealing with a bunch of, what do they call them? Slimy salesmen. Then you need to give them a sheet to read off so that they can be programmed. In fact, there's a scene in Wolf of Wall Street at the beginning where he goes in to sell penny stocks and makes thousands of dollars a month off penny stocks, and all of the other people can't do it. And he's like, how'd you do that? And they all want to know how to do it. And he programs them. He programs his Stratonites. He programs them. He gives them a sheet. He writes a procedure for them because they don't know how to do it. They have to be coded because they're stupid, right? You're just a bunch of sleazy salesmen, he says. And he gives them the thing, and boom, they start making tons of money because they've all been coded to do the same thing, even though it's absolute bullshit. It works though because they've been coded to do it. And that's why so many, salespeople will say you have to follow these steps, and if you don't follow these steps, you're doing it wrong. Humans really, I mean, you know what? You can say what you want about Wolf of Wall Street, and I mean, it's one of my favorite movies. I talk about it all the time, but it has a lot of commentary about human nature in it, and that's one of the reasons I love it. So, Wolf of Wall Street procedure scene, right? All right, so here he says. This is Margot. You should hear her talk candidly about filming this movie. It's really funny. She's such a brilliant actress. So, all right, we're probably gonna get told not to listen to this, but I'm gonna play it anyway. Whoops, that was really loud. Did you hear that, by the way? Why is this sound not on? Oh. Wait, there's good music on too. Damn. All right, let's play this. Okay, we're going to play this. I'm going to listen. I want to listen. I'm going to teach each and every one of you to be Captain fucking Ahab. Okay, there's swear words here, just so you know. Talking about whales here. This is how you program a human. And with this script, which is now your new harpoon, he's coding these idiots. To be Captain fucking Ahab. A bunch of x86, Windows 95 Captain Ahab from the computers.
From the book, motherfucker, from the book.
It's like from Captain Ahab. He can't even. They don't even know Captain Ahab. He's like, they're so stupid. So we're talking about programming humans, and this is a scene about programming humans to do very horrible things. Humans can be programmed to do all kinds of things with paper.
Look, turn your fucking brain on. Fuck you. Listen to me. We're a new company. A new name.
I'm gonna
a
get
company that our
muted for that.
clients can believe in. A company that our
All right,
clients
I'm gonna
can trust.
YouTube. You're gonna have to go
A
watch it
firm whose
yourself.
roots
I feel a little weird showing the Wolf of Wall Street to y'all and thinking, and then saying in the same whisper, voice that I want to help you change your stars. I don't want to be Jordan Belfort, okay, but the truth of Wolf of Wall Street is that humans of any capacity can be programmed to do things that produce value. And if you look at it that way, either as an educator or as someone who wants to program themselves to do different things, to have more value, to be more efficient, to do whatever, it's a very real approach. I mean, it said this whole thing is like, hey, make sure you write it down, right? Well, that entire scene that I showed with Wolf of Wall Street is him programming essentially 16 other, very idiotic sleazy salesmen, and they're like reading off the thing and everything, and they, after repetition, they get so good at it that many of those idiots become multimillionaires because they're just so good at what they've been programmed to do. I'm not suggesting that we should program people to do things that are going to take advantage of the unfortunate or whatever, but we should definitely, and what's there's another couple of things that I'm kind of thinking about. So one of them is that what is it that made Jordan Belfort's method of taking advantage of people better than the method of taking advantage of people that they were doing there, right? I mean, whether it's taking advantage of people in a sales call or it's a military op or it's a medical procedure, there's going to be variation in how a procedure is done and which one is more effective. And you read about in medical journals all the time, they are always putting out better procedures about how to do a thing. In fact, CPR, they've changed it so many times, I don't even know. They don't, but one time you're supposed to, do mouth to mouth. Now you don't, it's not just COVID. And it's like, they're constantly changing the procedure, right? So whatever system that we're coming up with or of documentation or helping other people learn or helping you track your own procedures or helping you track your own learning, whatever thing we come up with, it has to be adaptable. It has to be able, certain procedures need to be able to be elevated in value over others. And that, Stack Exchange comes to mind. There's a bunch of idiots who upvote certain things on Stack Exchange and they become the number one answer when usually the right answer is like number 5 and has like 10 people who like it. Because they've decided that everybody gets an equal vote, which is totally stupid. So the system that we come up with has got to not have that. And that's kind of a big part of it. Yeah. So that's pretty much Jimmy. Yeah. I think for CPS, if we're not medical professionals out of the wild, in a hospital and medical setting, we still do BVM. Oh, nice. We bag them so they can get oxygen in their blood. Yeah. Interesting. Well, I didn't know if, when I went through, last time I went through, it was, years ago, went through training, the river guide training stuff, but quite a while. The only thing we're changing is how it's being taught to laymen. Oh, good. Maybe that's the way to go. Good to know. Thank you for that. This is an example procedure for a landscape company instructing team members to, okay, so they have another procedure example. Enter the customer database, enter the username and password, add client, blah, blah, blah. The thing I don't like about this particular example is it's all like, I came here to get ideas about the formatting, and this one's always like, there's only one level of depth. Now, you could get away with that by making, one of the things, every time I do this pretty much every other year, I try to make one of these. And one of the things that bogs it down really easily is what would normally be considered a subroutine, right? So like when you're writing actual code, you get a procedure that's really long, and you're like, okay, that that there needs to be broken out so it can be reused someplace else. It needs to become its own, procedure or method. And by the way, when you break out something from a procedure, you don't just break out the procedure as a subroutine. You'd have to break it out as a separate operation with its own method, and that has a procedure. So that becomes a little bit overwhelming. But I think that's the way to go. Right. Yeah. When people do CPR, if there's no mouth to mouth regard. Interesting. Yeah. So that's interesting. So here's the procedure. So we're coming up with kind of a way to document it. And I don't think I'm going to actually have an example of the method here. Why does this matter? I mean, why am I so onto the formatting thing? Because every time I do this, something as simple as deciding whether we should do it as YAML or Markdown becomes an issue. And you can also put it all in a database, right? But if you do that, and now you've got a crazy complicated thing to manage. And most of the systems for training that capture procedures and this kind of thing, I think they fall under the weight of too much engineering. They're over engineered. And so I'm just kind of talking through how we would capture that. So for example, if we were to do, I think, I think that we can write an operation. The problem I have with this is if you create an operation that has multiple methods, which you should have, then do you document the method or do you document the operation, right? And decoupling an operation from its method gets messy when you're writing a recipe. Every recipe book, all the O'Reilly recipe books, the Nutshell books and everything, they have a recipe, and if they have a recipe that's like on Windows or on Mac, so which that's the same operation just with a different implementation, a different method depending on what, where they are or something. Sometimes they'll have two recipes which are the same task, the same operation, back to back, using a different method. And the question really then becomes, what is actually in the book? If you go pull up an O'Reilly recipe, what is that? Is it an operation? And by the way, they don't uniquely name them other than to say it's on page 21 or something. Linux, so you can add translate a neural net to do Linux admin. Train a neural net to do Linux admin. You kind of could. You almost could say that. What are we saying? Oh God, you guys are so fighting. I'm doing some compression. Oh damn. Oh wow, yeah. Yeah, tough stuff. It's an interesting conversation they're having. We have some medical professionals having a great conversation in our chat right now, which I'm happy to see them having. So, in very specific terms, how do I write this? Right? What is it that we write? Do we write down the method? Do we have a document for? I want to say task because that's a more common term that people would associate. If I say operations, or do we say skills, right? What is a skill, by the way? Typing is a skill. Skills, knowledge, and abilities, SKAs, those are the three things when they do evaluations on people. Abilities are largely innate, can be trained. Skills are repetitive and kind of executable kind of things. And knowledge is just, stuff like terms mostly, and historical relevance and context and things like that. Those are the things. And so when you're getting into education of any kind, you got to like say, how do I promote skills, knowledge, and abilities in the people that I'm helping? And that's really what it boils down to. Based on that language, which is really common in HR and stuff like that, I think that the proper web page name here is skills, because a skill, we'll say that a skill is the application of an operation with a method, right? So having a skill means that I can execute. Let's put that in the terms. So, what is a skill? A skill is let's see, is being able to perform a task. And a task is a scheduled point in time execution of an operation. Right. So a skill is being able to perform a task. There, that's it. And then if you define task to be a point in time execution of an operation in the past or present, then we can go to operation, which is a method, and we can pull apart the definition. A skill has a competency over some ability, isn't it? Well, as that was explained to me, an ability is, some people will go so far as to say his ability is largely innate and can't be changed. Leadership, for example, communication. A skill would be send an email, right? Communication would be, the more nebulous idea of promoting understanding in the person that you're communicating with, right? I think they're both skills. I actually think skills and abilities, but sometimes ability is also in a job posting is like can lift 100 pounds, right? That's not a skill. So some people can lift 100 pounds. Some people will never be able to lift 100 pounds. And that's where abilities comes to play. So skills, knowledge, and abilities. There's some people who can lead a group, and there's some people that never be able to lead a group. There's some people who, language ability is one that comes under ability as well. I personally think languages are skills, but yeah, there's real controversy between the definition of skill and ability to my way of thinking. Knowledge at the end of the day is memorizable information. So, what a term skill actually means would be knowledge. So, and that's largely memorization. It lands well on cards and stuff like that. What is the composition of a TCP/IP packet, right? That's a knowledge thing. So, it doesn't really get you anything. You can't really do anything with it, but it helps you understand how things work and stuff when you're actually applying skills that can influence how you do those by giving you better context. Yeah. So that's how I would put it. So a skill is being able to perform a specific task. So what skills do you have is basically asking yourself the question, what tasks you want to be able to perform, and ultimately what job requires those skills. And not a job in terms of like work, right? We're talking about, a career, what was the other word? Where you do something, but it's not necessarily job related. Oh, what is it called? You have it's occupation, I guess. An occupation can be something you get paid for or something you don't get paid for. So we'll call it occupation. And so like a homemaker is an occupation, even though they might not get paid for it. A Twitch streamer is an occupation, even though you don't get paid for it. Some people, it's their occupation. It's their only occupation, right? An occupation is something that occupies the time of the person doing it, usually to provide some benefit and or enjoyment to that person and others. Not always, though. Sometimes it can be just to make the world a better place. So, yeah. So let's see. An occupation is something that occupies the time of the person doing it, usually to provide some benefit or joy. Okay. So that's an occupation. So, occupations require skills to perform there. I mean, this stuff goes without saying, but what we're doing, this process we're doing right now is called domain modeling. It's where we're coming up with the terminology of our system before we start writing the system. And a lot of people don't do that. I can promise you that. If you're a systems analyst, this is a big part of your job, whether or not you end up even write. There are systems analysts who don't even write code at all. That all they do is write the terminology and the procedures and stuff, and then the overall business management team will look at what's happening in this company, and they'll note areas about where it can be automated, something can be computerized, and they'll take that. Whether it's the same sort of thing as a Python programmer who sees an area of code that needs to be optimized, and so they write that as C, and then they stub it out in Python. It's the same approach, but it's an enterprise. You know, I use that word a lot, but it's kind of like an organizational and enterprise approach to coding humans, to coding how systems work, like larger systems of people, and sometimes there's a computer there, sometimes there's a piece of AI, sometimes there's a mechanical component, but that's what systems analyst and systems design is. It's not just computers. It tends to be computers, but it's not just computers. All right, so you can give an AI. So an AI give a B52. I don't know what a B52 is. What's a B52? So, but from the higher level of systems design, there are some things, and I mean, the AI conversation is relevant for sure, because there are definitely going to be things that can be replaced by automation and other things. I mean, that's systems design, period. Is there anything humans can do with enough time and effort? We are not that special, and I think it's hard for people to swallow. I wouldn't go so far as to say that. I do largely agree with that statement. Yeah, I do largely agree with the statement that that AI is gonna fill way more jobs than we think that it's capable of right now. Even I think it's capable of. I think because all AI is a neural net, and all our brains are all neural nets. I mean, really, am I wrong? So, but that is a part of this whole systems training conversation. We even use the same terms, right? When you train a machine learning algorithm, you are giving it a bunch of experience. The same way that you train a human's neural net. You say, "Oh no, that's wrong. That result was wrong. Oh, that result was good. Do it again. Do it again." That you're training a human brain just like you train a neural net in a very real sense. From what I mean, I'm not an ML expert by any means, but it's very much the same approach, in my opinion. So, yeah, don't do something that can be automated. Obviously, people will be hired if they can produce value somehow. I agree. Those machines are going to need to be developed. Yeah, I mean, it's the whole Willy Wonka thing, right? Willy Wonka's dad, Charlie from the chocolate factory. Charlie's dad loses his job, and then he gets his job back because they hire machines, and he learns how to be the guy who fixes the machine. It's an oversimplification, but it's true. Yeah. So it's a wave of jobs. Yeah, absolutely. They're training humans to do things is always going to be required because humans are always going to be around unless we die out. The funny thing, I mean, you can pretty much train any neural net, whether it's a crow or a dog or a human or an AI. Given sufficient inputs, I think the thing that's going to differentiate AI from humans is the number of sensory inputs, and as the number of sensory inputs improves, the number of data points increases, AI is going to become more and more and more and more like a human, and they can simulate an entire lifetime of human experience in a very short time with AI given enough data. So that's just going to get even more fun to watch because our the amount of data that we take in through our eyes and ears and senses every day is astounding. I mean, if you were to calculate it in terms of 150 frames per second, greater than 4K resolution. I mean, not to mention the microscopic granularity of our noses, for example. I mean, there's so much data that comes in concurrently in real time that we can't even comprehend what the future processing power. When we get into quantum computing, this is going to be really fun, right? Because when we get into quantum computing and stuff like that, and we're now able to create computers that can take in the real-time data of a human, not only that, but take in the collective real-time information from multiple humans over several years within a week, we're going to start to see AIs that operate as well or better than humans on many things, many tasks. And I really want to talk about an AI task that's being used for real-time sensory development that's actually using some 3D technology, but I can't. It's so stinking cool, but it's 100% proprietary. Let me just say that real-time AI visual processing is, and I'm not talking about just driving cars or something, right? I'm talking about other things. There's stuff that's happening now that is going to become mainstream that is absolutely going to blow you away. I wish I could talk about it. I can't, but it's really, really amazing stuff, and it's completely based on AI. Having been exposed to, a few isolated repetitive tasks. The stuff from AI that's benefiting really well right now is the stuff that is very repetitive and very specific, and it deals with things that have very slight variation in them, such as, assembling an IKEA chair, right? I mean, or things like that. I mean, there's going to be those repetitive tasks are going to be because they can get the data in there better. There's less variation in the data, so those are the things we're immediately going to see go away, and that includes writing code. That includes a lot of software development, for obviously reasons. You guys know that. Do you think there might be a cap on energy consumption? I don't know. I don't know about that one. So, all right. So I'm going to take a quick break, and we come back. I want to, before I end streaming today. Actually, I think I'm probably going to wrap the stream up here. We'll go ahead and raid somebody. Trash, you going to be streaming? I can go raid you. So, a functional AI generated code. Oh, I don't agree with that. I think it depends on what you define as functional AI generated code. We already have it right now. The AI generated completions in chat in some of the software, that's totally workable right now. People are doing it already. Whoever is streaming, not streaming today. Okay, so just to wrap up though, because I do want to close off the YouTube video as well. Today has largely been about coming up with the domain language and the next step will be to actually create the database for how we're going to program humans. Why do I care? I'm doing this because I am programming humans. I've been doing it since 2018, 2008, if not earlier. And I want to get better at it, which means that I want to create a database where we can capture skills that go with an occupation that are itemized by task, and then create educational materials, procedures outlining those tasks, those the operations and methods that go with those tasks. And in doing so, I can organically train it by adding specific methods and things without necessarily knowing what occupation it goes with. And then as we do as we do beginner boost and things like that, when I can say list all the files in a directory, that is a very specific operation. They can have multiple methods, use find, use vi, use ls-la or whatever. Those 3 different methods for that thing, and we can begin to populate the methods database with those methods and operations, right? And that is the thing that, whether it takes book form or it becomes a database or it becomes visualized with associations, we can then use that to create occupations with direct links to the skills needed and how to train yourself to have those skills, as well as the reverse, which is I just want to accomplish this thing and I forgot how to do it. And you could search the database for how to accomplish that task. All of this stuff exists on the internet in some fashion already, but what my dream has always been is to create a centralized repo of some kind that we could collaboratively contribute to in such a way that if somebody has multiple methods for accomplishing a thing, they could actually submit their method. I mean, Quora and Stack Exchange are kind of already trying to do this, just completely without any level of trust or authority. Or, I mean, imagine combining social media with this sort of idea. I could therefore put weight into a dozen people and say, show me all the methods that they've contributed to, or that this is the way to do it, right? So if some dumbass tells people to use Control-C instead of Escape in VI, I can know to blackball that person from any of their contributions if they even took the time to do it. Mostly of them wouldn't do it. They're too busy making YouTube videos. But if they did, that would be the way to do it. I would rather people who actually know contribute to the steps in such a database. And I believe personally that the people who actually know how to do this shit, who are less likely to make YouTube videos, are going to be the ones who are going to be more likely to contribute, because they know that their contribution to this particular procedure is like writing open source for humans, is what it is. It's FOSS for humans. We are FOSSing, open sourcing or whatever, the training of humans in particular tasks that are common across the industry, whether it be in tech or programming or whatever. Is there going to be disagreement about how to accomplish a certain thing? Hell yeah. And we're going to have 5 different methods. And we see this actually. There's actually one training site that does have kind of a thing related to this. It's called, what is it called? Code. It's not Code Combat. It's another one. But there's another one, and they'll give you, I think LeetCodes does this too, but they'll give you a problem, right? Not a task, not a real world task that needs to be accomplished as part of a job or an occupation. They'll give you a problem. And they'll say, solve the problem. And then they'll upvote the people that they think solve the problem the most elegantly. I love that idea, except for it's completely irrelevant. What would be better is if they had, here is a relevant task that relates to an occupation, a real life occupation. And here's how you should do this thing. Here's the method according to one or more experts as to how you should do the thing. And then another, panel of experts that we trust is able to upvote that person or that person's solution above others, as opposed to it just being a popularity contest, right? And then you have, the thing that's really important about this is that each individual needs to be able to assign authority to other people, right? Based on what they think. We don't want to show some random stupid ass upvoted thing based on a bunch of people. We have people that are industry experts who are getting an equal vote as people who have no fucking idea what they're doing. And they just think it sounds right. They upvote it. It is the single biggest problem with Stack Exchange Core and any other system of start, upvoting, GitHub, any of that, because the people that are consuming the popularity contest results don't get to choose who was voting in the popularity contest. They don't get to assign authority to their individual group. And if they're a dumbass and they give authority to everybody, then fine, their results will suck. But I don't want my results to suck. I want to be able to pick a few isolated authorities in the particular matter that I think have authority, and maybe even give them an authority rank. And then according to what I say, right? And I'm going to share my ranking of authorities with others, and then they will share with me. They'll say, "Oh, wow, I trust what Rob thinks." So they will, maybe trust me and assign a certain level of authority until somebody does them wrong, and they say Rob's wrong there. I'm going to make my own authority adjustment to that particular person. And then when we go look at the tasks and the input and the procedures and things that are upvoted or that are even created by these contributors, we can then say, okay, I know that I can trust these procedures based on this. So there's like 5 methods to escape out of VI, right? And now, or most incredibly, one of them would be edit a file from the command line. So that's a task, right? Edit a file from the command line. There's going to be people that their method's going to be NeoVim. There's going to be people that their method's going to be ed. There's going to be people that are going to have tons of methods, right? And each individual participant in this system needs to be able to establish their own idea of trust, so they can say, I trust so-and-so, I trust so-and-so over so-and-so. And they can actually adjust that at any time. And so when somebody else says, no, use control left bracket because I trust Rob because he's an American, he's using an American keyboard, he's not using an international keyboard where control left bracket isn't available. Therefore, we have to do remapping of JK instead of using escape. I mean, you see what I'm saying? So just get basic things like escaping a line in VI take on completely relevant value depending on who you are and where you are in the world and what you're doing. And so that is always going to be an individual determination. And that's always the system has to take into account that individual. So the people who want to invest the time into such a system by, contributing their open source code for humans, can do so knowing that, they can still search for the cred and all the other stuff that might motivate you to do something in Stack Exchange. But more importantly, the people who are consuming the data can know with some degree of surety that, where it's coming from. And then they can identify mentors, and over time, those mentors and the people who have identified themselves in the system can then become known. They can become known. This person is an authority, not because they've given a million conference talks on Kubernetes, but because they actually do it every day. And they've submitted lots of procedures about how to do things in Kubernetes that demonstrate skill through merit and through experience, and not through they just are a very personable person who happens to get a lot of money speaking in conference talks. So my end goal, and I'm going to wrap up with this, my end goal is to create a system eventually that is driven by people who want to share, period. It's not driven by people who want to sensationalize to get views. It's not driven by people who are, have an impressive rhetorical style and therefore get a lot of conference talks and booked gigs. It's driven by people who fucking know what they're doing. The meritocracy of it, if you want to call it that. So that is the goal. It's going to take me a long time. I have been plinking away at this dream for more than a decade, and I don't know if it will ever actually be manifest. I don't know what form it will take even. I don't know if it'll be a website. I don't know if it'll just be a way to write your stuff. It's partially related to the Knowledge Exchange Grid, which I've been working on for about 7 years. But that I'm kind of backing away from a little bit because this is actually more important. In some sense, we could actually make this a sub-project of the Knowledge Exchange Grid, which is a way to exchange knowledge and already establish trust and upvote people and follow them and everything. That's already built into that system. But I feel like we probably need to address this idea of trust and who to follow and who's contributing and identity and all of that. I think we need to do that under the context of knowledge exchange. through training. In other words, training humans. And I think we need to get more specific as opposed to just generally sharing knowledge, right? So generally sharing knowledge, which is not knowledge exchange is about, is good and all, but and that involves, blog posts and stuff, so you might want to upvote somebody in your trust chain to get informed of their Zettlecast entries or get a post or things like that. And that's all relevant to general knowledge exchange, but it's not specifically relevant to how do I train myself and others to do a specific thing for a specific occupation or a set of specific things. And so that then becomes kind of a fun thing to go about at that point. I'm getting access from other people, other good fun people Sunday. I'm going to actually go on a nice bike trip. I might do the bike trip here. I don't know if it's raining outside. I'll have to go check. I think it is going to rain. If it is raining, I'll be back here biking and listening to music and sprinting on the on the upbeats. If you want to come back and watch that, welcome to have you. As for YouTube, stay tuned. I think I'm going to probably make I'm going to put this under co-working, but I'm really tempted to make this into its own playlist. I do have I might actually make a playlist called Programming Humans and keep this as a kind of a themed thing because it's important. You know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to make a playlist. I'll call it Programming Humans, and and we'll go from there. Take care, everybody on YouTube.